Warframe is all about speed. It's a super fast game with really smooth movement, and for the most part you're trying to do things quick and fast, right? But in Warframe, you can never have enough movement speed. At the end of the day, we just need more movement speed. So in this video, I'm going to go over different ways that you can speed up any frame that you are playing for your day-to-day missions. Just a quick disclaimer, this video is more catered towards mid to late game players, but I will try my best to give a few suggestions for early game players as well. But first, a huge thank you to all of the members on the channel. Thank you so much for your support. Just to be clear, this video is going to be some of the methods that I use to speed up any frame I want to play for any type of mission. It's not focused on specific frames that have abilities that make that frame a speed frame, like Gauss or Volt or Titania, and so on. Firstly, before I go into the video, I want to explain two mechanics, and that is the difference between sprint speed and parkour velocity. Sprint speed is pretty self-explanatory. It's how fast you move when you sprint. There are many mods, Arcane's abilities and passives that increase your sprint speed, but this only applies to your sprint speed. Here is an example with many speed mods on a random frame. And then we have parkour velocity. Parkour velocity is actually your bullet jumping speed. In Warframe, you're pretty much going to be bullet jumping 99% of the time. That's just how most people move. You will bullet jump and then roll, slide, rinse and repeat. So it is actually better to stack parkour velocity and roll speed rather than just sprint speed, because you're barely going to be actually sprinting. Here is an example here with a lot of parkour velocity. So when it comes to increasing your overall speed as a beginner, well, it's a bit difficult because the easiest mods that you can get are sprint speed mods, which in theory in the star chart isn't so bad. The mods that you can use are the aura mod called Sprint Boost, which increases your sprint speed, and Rush, which does the same thing. And then if you have one available, the mod Mobilize is really good for parkour velocity or bullet jump speed. This is the easiest way to make your frames feel faster, because in Star Chart you can get away with running extra utility mods. Although, like I explained earlier, when you begin to learn Warframe's movement, you will find yourself focusing on bullet jumping instead of just plain sprinting. So if you're a newbie and learning the game, you can focus on sprint speed in the beginning, or simply just dive into the deep end and learn how to bullet jump efficiently. Now let's move on to the methods I use for increasing your Warframe speed as a later game player. Firstly, I generally use a primer for my setups, which means I will be running a secondary like the Kuva Nucore, Epitaph or Compressor. And in all of these builds, I always run this one mod called Amalgam Barrel Diffusion. This mod increases your dodge speed. A lot of people have asked me on streams how I'm rolling so fast. Well, here is your answer. Amalgam Barrel Diffusion is an amazing quality of life mod that just makes you feel like you are gliding through your missions. I love this mod so much, and it feels weird when I don't use it. You get Amalgam Barrel Diffusion from the Thermia Fracture event. Then we move on to the next weapon that I use, which I pretty much just use as a stat stick. It is a bit of a high MR weapon. It's an MR14 weapon, and it's called the Praedos. And the reason I use the Praedos is because of the evolutions. The Praedos has two evolutions which increase your sprint speed and slide by 20% and gives you a 30% parkour velocity boost, which is actually really good just from a weapon. Here is the build if you're interested. Using this setup with a primer works really well. The combination of the Praedos and Amalgam Barrel Diffusion is what I pretty much always use when I'm just doing random missions, and let's just say I'm relying on the primary weapon to kill. I use this for Archon hunts, fishes, or just random missions. I also occasionally use the mod called Amalgam Serration, which is also from the Thermia Fractures event, which gives you a nice 25% sprint speed bonus. I mainly rely on this combination, but there are ways that you can even further increase this if you'd like. And that is the use of Amber Shards. Amber Shards give you a nice little increase of parkour velocity, and if you add just 2 normal ones, you get an extra 30% parkour velocity. If you're crazy, you can add 5, but I don't see where you'll need that, and bile is expensive, but it's your game, have fun. You can also use the Arcane called Arcane Agility, which gives you a fat 60% parkour velocity when damaged. I would prefer using Arcane Agility than wasting parkour velocity on shards, but I did just want to give you the option. There is also an Arcane called Arcane Phantasm, which gives you a 60% movement speed on a successful block. This Arcane is okay, but not very good, because it doesn't count when you have a frame that has a damage mitigation ability. It must basically be a pure block with no damage mitigation abilities active, so it's not ideal. If you wanted to make your slide better, then Maglev and Cunning Drift is the best for that. This is good when you slide first, then go into a bullet jump and roll. But this is of course if your build can handle the extra utility mod. For the most part, your steel path builds won't have the extra space for an extra utility mod. These are the main methods I use to speed up any frame I am running. Like I said, this is for those frames that feel slow and you want to speed them up for any mission. It's a really nice quality of life buff, and I really enjoy running Amalgam Barreled Fusion and the Praedos because it covers most movement speed types. This is especially good when running Void Cascade or Disruption. But be warned though, pretty much when you're running the setup, you are relying on your primary to kill. Praedos is not a bad melee weapon, it can handle Steel Path really well, especially since you'll be running a primer. And that is the video. It's a quick one. I wanted to go over this because I get quite a few questions on stream about how I'm moving so fast, so I feel like more people need to know about this, especially the difference between sprint speed and parkour velocity. I feel like some people get confused about that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.